Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Monday, February 1st, 2021. Tonight's special edition is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do a little bit of Grand Solar Minimum news update, and then we'll get right into the storm coverage. And I've got a couple of thoughts I'd like to share about that as well too. But anyway, let's get to our space weather update. And right now we are still sitting at a chance of possibly seeing a G1 geomagnetic storm. Also up until tomorrow, that chance will run out. So we kind of called that last week before it was put out, but that coronal hold that we were talking about is definitely proven to be possibly geomagnetic activity. And we will wait and see. Right now, KP is at 2, and the 24-hour max is at 2. The solar wind speeds have definitely increased a little bit over the last hour. We're sitting at 383.1 kilometers per second with a density of 22. Now, I want to talk about the density and the combination of this storm that we got coming here as well. So here we are at our space weather section on Grand Solar Minimum. You can see the solar activity just been very, very weak lately. 0 KP indices. What's seen? Well, I'm on the other one now. It's showing it's coming through. What's seen? All right, so I guess there was audio issues in the beginning of this. All right, sorry about that, folks. I was talking about the solar winds increasing right now as we are watching for a G1 storm, possible between now and tomorrow. The solar wind speed is up a little bit from the last hour to 383, but also the density was at 44.5 about an hour ago. It's dropped in half, and that's because the solar wind speeds picked up. But still, my concern is the amount of, we are heading into a solar wind stream that's bombarding our magnetic field. It'll put more highly charged particles into the atmosphere. And how fast are these solar winds? They could be somewhere right around 500 kilometers per second. They could be around 650. That coronal hole that we had last time was not that wide, so it could be just really similar to the last one we had a few days ago. But also, I want to talk about how this could affect the upcoming storm for most of us up here in the so we're hearing, okay, anyway, so we move into this potential storm from the coronal hole that I was talking about. And I want to show you something real quick. This is the one that we were dealing with. This is another one. So we've had one that was already on the western limb. This one right here, which I think is going to be a little bit more of an impact with solar wind speeds. Probably somewhere around closer to 600, 620 kilometers per second. And that could definitely trigger a G1 geomagnetic storm. And then we got this guy right here that's also going to affect Earth's magnetic field. And this is just about the same width as what we've seen here in the last two coronal holes. On top of the fact that we're blank, let's look at what's going to be happening in the near future, and nothing. We are in minimum conditions still, folks. And with that, combined with the fact that we are in minimum conditions, we have temperatures that are going to continue to plunge. And what do we know about a spotless sun? Usually indicates a colder climate. Which it's doing right now. It's displaying that big time. A lot of things that's contributing to these temperatures as far as them fluctuating back and forth. We are waiting for the UAH Dr. Roy Spencer report for that last month of December. Quite a drop. Are we going to see the same drop in January? It was cold. It was colder than it was in December, I'll tell you that. And a lot of other places too experience that cold. And right now, when I show you guys the GFS outlook at the end of this, this all makes sense. Like I said, we're looking at a blank sun. We're in minimum conditions. We're still, when we're having geomagnetic storms, we're only dealing with a G1 tops. Tops, G1. That's very minimum-like storm activity. When we start seeing the G3s and the G4s, we know we're getting closer to the maximum. And we will see those storms eventually. But right now, solar cycle 25, let's admit it, it's struggling to get going. We've had a couple of spurts of activity from our sun, and then it dies out. And I really didn't expect the sun to be this quiet, honestly, through February. I did expect it to be quiet through January and maybe parts of early February, which we are. This is early. But when I look at this right here, and I don't see anything that would say we need to kind of keep our eye on this particular region here. I don't see that. Maybe something on the offing here. That's about 8 days away, piercing the eastern limb. That'll be the next coronal hole we'll be dealing with, and I do believe we will see another chance for a G1 storm as well from that particular coronal hole. Nothing major, G1 tops. This coronal hole is no bigger than the last two, maybe slightly longer, but again, what we're looking for on coronal holes when it comes to solar wind speed is the width of the coronal hole. That means we'll see faster solar wind speeds, which means our magnetosphere will be bombarded with highly charged particles. And what timing right now that we're facing, dealing with this storm, and I'll get into that here in a minute, but we're going to have solar wind speeds increasing overnight tonight into tomorrow. That'll bring more highly charged particles to the atmosphere. That'll fuel this storm. And again, I am not going to be surprised if this storm is an overperformer. Now, they changed the forecast where I'm at here in upstate New York. We were expecting 1 to 3. They changed it to 8 to 15. And then yesterday, they dialed it in to about 4 to 8 inches. And it stayed that way all day today. In fact, it could be just 3 to 6. Just the way this storm is moving. Who knows? But like I said, I don't think these forecasters are considering solar forcing in their forecasting. So we'll see if this storm is right on the money, or does it dump a lot of snow in areas that weren't expecting that much snow. That's happened a lot. All right, before we get back into the storm coverage, I saw something over the weekend, and I almost went live yesterday, and I wish I would have. But I was watching several news programs on the weekend. I watched CNN, I watched Fox. You got to keep up with both sides. I know a lot of people who don't watch CNN or any mainstream media whatsoever, And I honestly feel like that is putting on blinders. There's a lot of information that is being reported on mainstream that is true. And I'll explain here in a minute. So you kind of have to have they have to be somewhere in the middle and listen to basically keeping your enemy close, right? You got to watch CNN, you got to watch MSNBC, you got to watch ABC, you got to watch these other networks to see if how bad off is it, right? Like, how far off are we on the information? Is it right? Is it false? Whatever. I'm telling you though, this weekend I was watching CNN and John Kerry is being interviewed, and I want you guys to listen to what he has to say. And this is just a brief clip here, but I want you to listen to what he has to say about the Paris Treaty climate. Check this out, and I'll elaborate after this.
But here's the but. We really need to do a great deal more than that. General Motors just announced that they are going to be moving to pure electric cars, nothing but electric, in 15 years. A lot of European auto manufacturers have made a similar kind of announcement, and I think that is the trend. People are going to move to electric cars, which means you're going to have to produce more electricity ultimately, but there are ways to do that clean. So this is...
Did you hear that? Let me play this one more time. Oh, that's point number one. That's point number one, okay? Yeah, you're going to have more electricity to be used to charge these bastards. But there's ways to do it clean, and I'll get into that as well. So there's point A. Here's point two.
This is all achievable, and I think the important point for people to really focus on is it's a very exciting economic transition. It's a job-creating transition. There are just going to be millions of jobs created with new products coming online, innovation that takes place, technology advances that will help us do things that we may not be able to do today, but it will happen because the demand is there. And that demand is going to have a huge change in the kinds of things, the kind of work that is available to people. Nobody's going to be told they have to go do that. They're not going to be ordered to go do it. But the marketplace itself is going to work in a way that makes it inviting and profitable, and frankly, cleaner and healthier and more secure.
Not once did John Kerry mention climate change during that segment. And point two is, this is a exciting economic transition. That's what he's saying. This is going to create jobs. Mari and I have been saying this for years, that the Green New Deal and the Paris Treaty has nothing to do with climate change. It is about money. It is about profiting. It is about tapping into a new economic market. That's all this is about. And look, when you're dealing with a pandemic that's worldwide and millions of people are out of work right now, what do you think they're going to do here in the next few months when they get the virus numbers down? What do you think they're going to do? They're going to start offering these green jobs to everybody hand and foot, right? Well, people are upset about the Keystone pipe that's being halted. Jobs are lost at that. But again, the Democratic Party is trying to tell you that they're going to add jobs with this Green New Deal. Nowhere in there does he say, and he even admits too during this interview, you guys can check it out, that these Paris Treaty climate goals are not enough to do anything to the climate. Well, John, you're telling the truth. You're telling the truth. He's right. It's not going to do enough. It's not going to do anything to the temperature. He's absolutely right. He says it. So not only does he admit that these goals that they set in this Paris Climate Treaty, they're not going to do enough to change the climate. In other words, man can't influence it, is what you're saying. Because if we can't change it back, then how can we change it in the first place? Especially if you're talking about cutting out the main ingredient that you say causes global warming, which our friend David Birch over on Twitter reports the sea ice situation in Antarctica. Interesting enough, it's been growing quite a bit, actually, since 2019. And here's my question, folks. If we're in a climate emergency and the global temperatures are rising unprecedentedly, why is it and how is it that Antarctica has added so much ice over the last 2 years? Remember back in 2019 when everybody's talking about that big chunk of ice that melted off and everybody's freaking out and like, oh no, Antarctica, global warming, and we're all, that's it. 12 years, we're going to die. Well, you don't hear them talking about that anymore because the ice is growing again in Antarctica, just like it will in the Arctic. Now, kind of a key trigger to ice ages is when you have polar melt and when you don't have any ice at the poles or close to it at all. And we can say this in the Arctic, that it has been extremely low. We've seen very minimal ice for a little bit. It comes back when it's supposed to, but the melt has been flirting with 2012's numbers as well. So interesting enough how we have all these things in place right now where the AGW crowd, like John Kerry, they're changing their tune a little bit about this Green New Deal stuff. They're not making it about the climate anymore. They're not making it about the climate. They're making it about jobs and money, wealth distribution. That's what this is about. Changing the way our economy looks from here on out. And I will add, it is a miserable idea. We all know what happens when you rely on solar and wind during a solar minimum, let alone a grand solar minimum. You don't get the same kind of output that you get from the sun during a normal part of the cycle than you do during the minimums, especially in a grand solar minimum, because we're still dealing with low solar activity, low sunspots, still dealing with weak conditions from the sun, which contributes to more charged particles in the atmosphere, which nucleation. Also, all the solar particles impact our planet's seismic activity. So you have earthquakes, which releases natural CO2. You have volcanoes that releases CO2 as well, and amongst other particulates. You combine them with already active particulates in the atmosphere, combine them with highly charged particles, you got something called cloud nucleation. Now our cloud coverage is off the charts during a grand solar minimum. So we have less TSI absorbing in our surface temperatures and solar panels. It's being reflected out of space. And when the ice grows, the same happens. I don't know if you guys have seen the northern hemisphere snow ice extent, but there's a pretty good part of the northern hemisphere that's covered in snow right now. Pretty good part right now. Antarctica's growing in ice right now. So you have sun reflective TSI being reflected back into space, total solar irradiance, that's what that is. Earth's not getting as warm. And then we have all these cycles tying in together. Plus right now, we're in a La Nina, which we knew that the strength of this La Nina was going to be coming sometime in February or March. But I believe it's here. Dr. Roy Spencer, he had some pretty big numbers to show us last month. We dropped all the way from 0.53 above centigrade baseline to 0.27. And some are even speculating we could see an even greater drop. I'm not going to make a prediction because every time I do, I'm always off in the wrong direction. And it's off by like 20 or 30 degrees. Anyway. So I just thought it was interesting just kind of flipping through the news channels over the weekend. And again, it doesn't hurt to flip it on a CNN or MSNBC. You got to hear what these clowns are talking about when they talk about the climate. They don't talk about the climate. They have no idea what they're talking about. And an article I shared on Facebook about how doomed we are on this what do you call it, this climate crisis. And this guy was telling a story, and it was for a movie. It was something you would see out of a movie, and it was so fear pornish. No facts, no data, no numbers, no graphs, just fear this, fear that. By the way, a warmer climate means more life. Higher CO2 and warmer temperatures means more life. So there wouldn't be less species on Earth. We would actually thrive overall as a species when it comes to plant life, when it comes to human life, when it comes to animal life. Warmer the climate, life thrives, especially with a 416 part per million CO2 concentration in the atmosphere. That's pretty good. That's really good. And that's why we're seeing, in fact, 2017 was rough on crops, so was 18. 19 wasn't as bad. 20 sounded like it was a pretty good year. Guys, part of the reason that crops are surviving the early onset of grand solar minimum is because CO2 levels are high, which means they're getting bigger yields from their crop because they're growing in healthy conditions. Not everywhere had a good year this year on their crops. I'm saying for the majority part, there was good growing conditions. I remember reporting back in the spring, the plant went well, crops emerged went well, and the harvest went smooth. So again, CO2 is a, and by the way, I didn't mean to time anybody out. I just seen that. Said Jake GSM timed somebody out. You guys are watching in the chat. That was done on accident. So I apologize there. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so the truth is coming out slowly, and they're sneaking it past you folks. This is not about climate change. This is not about changing the climate back to a cooler. It's already happening. And here's case in point. And I'll move away from this carry thing on this final note here. How come we are not seeing anything about the names of these winter storms this year? To me, this is part of things like what I was just talking to you about with John Kerry. They're taking the climate part out of this Green New Deal. They're making it about economics. They're making it about money. They're waving the carrot in front of your face, basically. But remember, every year we had storms. They were named. Why did they stop naming the storms? Last year, busy. This year, it's going to be busier. And I'll show you that here in the GFS. But it's no accident that they stopped naming these winter storms. We're supposed to be global warming, right? But if the mainstream has to go through the winter storms and get done with the alphabet by mid-January, well, that doesn't sound like we're warming, does it? That doesn't fit the narrative. So there's another thing that mainstream media has snuck from in front of you without you knowing it. They didn't name the storms this year. I haven't heard one winter storm named yet. And we've had a couple of big ones. So, with this storm tonight, this is what we're looking at. Winter warnings all the way from Pennsylvania through Maine. Most of us are in a winter storm warning. Some of us are in a winter weather advisory. Just depends on where you're located at. Snowstorm is moving very slow, as you see here in the radar. The heaviest snow is moving through Massachusetts right now and southern parts of New York. Also, Vermont, southern Vermont, and New Hampshire will be impacted very soon from this snowstorm. Now, this is moving inland to the northwest slightly, and that's going to be key on how far it goes as to if some parts of upstate New York see the accumulating snow that is being forecasted in these areas. So very interesting storm that I would like to see take place. Again, I don't think people use the what do you call it? The solar forcing equation put in their forecast. This could be a nothing burger for me. 48 inches is what I'm supposed to get tonight in my area. But if it goes over that, can we say that highly charged particles had something to do with it? Possibly. Possibly. It had added a little oomph to it. A couple more inches than we thought. 3 inches maybe. I don't know. Time will tell. Right now, snow has not fell yet here in the capital region. It is moving up slowly to the capital region. But folks, this storm is predicted to go max out at 44 inches. New York City, over 1.5 feet of snow expected as well. A pretty impressive nor'easter. And I'll go right back to this here in a minute. I want to show you quickly. This is not what I wanted to show you, though. Bear with me, folks. Yeah, here we go. All right, so far, this is the snowfall that we've seen in the last 24 hours. And as you can see, the Jersey area, Trenton, Pennsylvania, large swath of Pennsylvania has seen some heavy snow. Let's zoom in here, folks. Take a quick look. Allentown, you guys, 8 to 12 inches of snow in the dark orange marks. In the light yellow, we're talking about 6 to 8 inches. Pretty good snowstorm. Not bad. That's definitely, shovelable. But that's what we've had so far. And if you want to move up here to the north, pretty quiet for us so far. Massachusetts now starting to see snow accumulating in Springfield and across the Berkshire as well. And it is slowly creeping its way into the capital region. Update this. Change. Bear with me. So far, this storm has done what they said it was going to do. Impressive snow amounts here for parts of Pennsylvania. Also, if you go back here towards Virginia, Northern Virginia is getting pounded right now. Some areas are actually seeing in excess of 16 inches of snow. Those are in the higher elevations up there in West Virginia and Northern Virginia as well. And then you have Baltimore, just their typical 3 to 5 inches. Allentown, Pennsylvania, though, right around a foot of snow, 8 to 12 inches. So far, pretty decent amounts of snow has fallen. And we will see this storm continue to move to the northwest over the next several hours, and it should affect the rest of Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire. We will soon see the impacts of total snow amounts from that. So let's move on real quick and check out our GFS update real quick. And then we will go ahead and go back to this and see if we have any updates on the snow totals. So here we are. This is an interesting run of the models, and I definitely wanted to show you this for several reasons. We are active right now in the Northwest and across the Midwest to the Northeast. La Nina, winter is nowhere near over. In fact, I'm starting to question what these people over at the Weather Channel are talking about when they say that the eastern and northeastern part of the United States is going to be above average, well above average. I don't see how that's possible. Let's check this out. So here's this current storm, as you see, overnight tonight into tomorrow, Tuesday. Heavier snow towards central New York, upstate New York. Still really heavy coastal snow, though, for parts of New Hampshire and Maine near Bangor. You can see a solid pickup of a foot, close to that at least. And then this thing starts to wind down Tuesday evening and flurries for the rest of New York by Wednesday morning. Still some lingering snow showers across the Northeast into Thursday, but another system moving across the Midwest. The low pressure system is going to affect the northern plain states this time and the Great Lakes. Start off as rain in Ohio, then turn back to snow. And heading up to the northeast, this could be a wet mix of rain and snow. Nonetheless, doesn't look to be much of a system at all. Possible 3 to 5 inches on Saturday, February 6th. As that rolls out, more lake effect for western New York. Another system building up here in Midwest. And guys, look at the high pressure here. This is important to watch because I'll show you guys too on the temperature outlook. Check out this jet stream trough. Look at this. Troughing all the way down to Oklahoma, northern Texas. Big time cold, folks. Big time. I'll show you here in a second. But this is Sunday, February 6th. There's system number 3. That's 3 snow systems through the Northeast by February 8th, Monday. So from now until Monday, we have the potential for 3 total storms to move from the northern plains to the Midwest into the Northeast. That also ends with lake effect snow showers across western New York and central New York. Snow across the Midwest once again forming on Thursday, February 9th, a little bit further south this time. Missouri getting in on the action. Arkansas as well. Southern Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee looking at some decent snow there for you guys. 3 to 5 inches is terrifying. You don't have the snow plows and the availability of salt trucks like we do up here in the north. So 3 to 5 inches will be dangerous travel. Probably some road closures and school closures as well, possible with the snowing event. Ice across the deep south. That's how cold we're getting, folks, by middle of February. Okay, so Weather Channel said February is going to be well above average. And I've already shown you several systems, 3 moving into the Northeast within the next 7 days. I know we're 10 days out right now, but this is just GFS giving us an idea, and GFS has been pretty good this year, so I'm going to continue to show these extended forecasts, all right? So moving on through the 11th, that system moves off the Atlantic. Some more lake effect snow developing for western New York, western PA, and northeast Ohio by February 12th. And then another chance for another nor'easter. Right now, GFS has it out in the Atlantic, too far away from inland. We will keep our eyes on that. That's also a storm I've been watching for the last week, and it is now starting to trend a little bit east, but that could change. We're still 11 days away from this, so anything can happen. Another big system moving in from the northwest, and boy, is it huge. Coming across the Midwest, really gets its act together by Sunday, Valentine's Day. An ice-snow mix going into the Great Lakes by the weekend, and the cold air is just enough to keep it all snow, I think, for the Northeast on the 15th through the 16th. There's system number 4. And boy, do we get smacked in Southern California by a low pressure. Look at that. So more mountain snow to happen. I mean, heavy mountain snow with this low pressure system coming in. That's a huge storm coming in on the 16th of February. We need to watch that one too. If there's any merit to this, this could be a blockbuster. And look, we talked about this last month. The current conditions are favorable with the polar vortex and everything going on in the southern stress warming atmosphere event. With these storms in north and south, these conditions are setting up to what we said last month, that we could see some blockbuster storms. February looks to be a wild month already for a lot of folks. Northwest, southwest, the south, the Midwest, the Northeast, even the East Coast is getting snow. So I think the only place it's not getting right now is southern Florida. And at this rate, who knows? And wait till I show you this cold air. Wait till I show you this cold air. Remember, well above average, all right? There we are. Those are good temperatures across the plain states. All the way through the central plains and the northern 40s. That's good for February. That is warm. But the areas that are still cold, the Northeast, the Great Lakes, the northern plain states, those areas are the ones that were supposed to be suffering as far as winter temperatures going up and the Northwest getting cold. Watch this. This is Wednesday, February 3rd. This is Thursday, February 4th. By February 5th, the weekend, northern plain states and the Great Lakes, look at that. Huge surge of Arctic air moving into the United States. Look at that. February 7th, folks. 19 degrees in central Texas. Daytime highs of 25 degrees in Texas. You got a little bit of ridge and fringe going on right here. I wouldn't worry about this. this cold Arctic blast is going to probably defeat that. That's not going to be green. So, boy, that looks a lot like the La Nina pattern. And boy, is it taking strong hold here in February, as it is expected for peak numbers as far as how cold we're going to see this winter. But check this out. This is February 7th. February 8th. Look out, Ohio. If you live in Toledo, -20 overnight. Look at this, -33 in parts of Minnesota, -36 in Wisconsin. That cold, this is daytime highs. -8 in Toledo, 0 in Cincinnati, Ohio for February 8th. We got friends out in Kentucky, Stephen Hill. Yeah, single digits, bud. This ain't mistaken. This is that cold Arctic air that's been building up in the Arctic that's being fed now down to the lower 48. And it starts to loosen up its grip a little bit by the 9th. But really, not really. It stays really, really cold. Look at this, guys. These are Arctic air temperatures here. Arctic, not winter, Arctic. Single digits, negatives, all across the Northeast. And I'm going to tell you something, too. We had negative values for lows over the last few nights. And they exceeded what last night was supposed to be -3, it got down to -11. Night before, it was supposed to be -13, it got down to -18. So this cold is unpredictable. This polar vortex is really weak and is blasting a lot of Arctic air into the lower 48. This is February 11th. I mean, Panhandle of Florida, definitely going to see some freezing temperatures. Is there a rebound in sight on the 12th? Not sure. Not really sure, honestly. It's trying in the Central Plains states, but look, right when the Central Plains starts warming up again, more Arctic cold air. Look at that, reinforcing in the Northwest as well. And these temperatures over the last 2 days I just showed you, the 15th, 37 for a high in Toledo, 39. Those are not well above average temperatures for February, okay? These are in the 30s, mid-30s, 40s across the Tennessee Valley. These are not above average. And then that cold air reinforces itself again by the 17th. Look at this. Those are daytime highs on February 17th. Half of the country is in the freezer. A third of the country is living life large, okay? Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida. I love you. I envy you because it is going to be cold. If you live at the Tennessee-Kentucky borderline and northward, it's going to be cold for a couple of weeks. So, Weather Channel, I don't know what you're talking about. Where I've got my arrow at, from here and north, there is no indication whatsoever that says we are going to have well above temperature. Now, anything can change. You all know that. Forecast could be different in a few weeks. But I've been expecting this blast of cold air to dip down from the Arctic for a long time. So I'm not surprised. And just now we have to sit here and see how long this actually is going to be taking place. Will it be through the whole month of February? Hey, look, just like I said, when this is spotless and is going to continue to be spotless, and we're going to have weak corona with coronal holes pushing highly charged particles into our atmosphere, creating cloud nucleation, creating, tons of precipitation that comes from these highly charged particles and the water vapor that's available to us right now in the atmosphere. It's going to be cold, folks. Winter is definitely a death grip right now on the northern part of the United States. No doubt about it. And let's take a look at the northern hemisphere. Pay attention to that Arctic air here that starts flowing into Canada and just really dominates most of the lower 48. Sorry for it being so small. I'm going to leave my arrow at the bottom just to show you a reference. That's the middle of the United States, what I'm showing you right there on the arrow. But I wanted you to get a whole vision of this cold air that is spilling into the lower 48. Look at this. This is on the 3rd of February. Here's that first big dip by the 5th. Another big dip by the 7th. Look at that. Really reinforcing it there in Canada, parts of the United States. And it's just, you know, the good news is it's sort of retreating over there in Russia and in Asia. Sort of. Not really. It comes back, especially when you see the end of this run. A little bit of a break, kind of lightens up a little bit here on the 10th. And then it looks like it gets filled back up and charged up again here on the 13th into the 14th. Look at the Arctic Circle. It's getting bright pink again. And we will start to see those colder temperatures once again spread south in the lower 48. In fact, I believe this right here will be affecting us by the 3rd week of February. I believe this is going to continue to funnel in from the Arctic. This is basically atmospheric pressure. Cold is winning right now and it is spilling. And that's because we have a weak polar vortex. If the polar vortex was strong, this colder air would be contained in the northern part of the Arctic. But since it's weak, it's allowing big blasts, and it's very weak because it's allowing quite a few blasts of Arctic air into the lower 48. So, that being said, we've got a lot of cold weather coming up. We've got 4 systems to the northeast that is due, according to GFS, and I've been pretty confident in GFS all year long so far. They've done a solid job in predicting storms. But we've got winter storm watches and warnings all up and down the East Coast into the Northeast. This system is only getting started, and again, you guys see over here to the snowfall totals. Let me get that fixed here for you. There we go. Let's get back in an area where we can all see. This is what we've had so far today. Let's update that. So far today, we've had a healthy amount of snow for West Virginia and Northern Virginia and Pennsylvania into New Jersey. New York City is now getting theirs as we speak. They are already in the 6 to 8 range, has already been received. That line is creeping up through central New York now into the capital region and will continue to progress through the night. Right now, this winter storm, this nor'easter, is taking hold. And let's see if our space weather will, interfere with this storm overperforming. And I think it could, just because of the current solar wind stream that's on its way and how thick it is already. So we could see a few more inches that was actually expected in our area. So I'd be interested to hear from you guys tomorrow in the comment section. See how much you got. Compare it to the actual forecast. And then we'll go over it on Wednesday night. We'll talk about, did this storm overperform or not? Did the particles from our solar wind stream have anything to do with that? I believe it will have something to do with it. It's been pretty much right on all year. I always go back and think about Dorian. When we had that Super Cat 5, we were also in a pretty strong storm. High solar winds, lots of particles in the atmosphere, highly charged at that. So... yeah, and on top of that, we got a full moon, the wolf moon. This crazy week, man. Let me tell you, it has been crazy out there. So I'd like to hear from you guys in the chat where you're from, if you're being affected by this storm right now. Temperature, all that good stuff. I'm looking in the chat right now. I want to say hello to Jesse Borwald, long time no see. Knife collectors out there. Jerome, hello. Matthew Bros, good to see you. Edward, always a pleasure. Very enthusiastic gardener. I see some new faces in here. Hello, old as dirt. Good to have you on board tonight. Also saw Arnold Schmidt. Good to have you as well, sir. Mari, my lovely wife, who does all of the producing and everything as far as producing the show and modding and kicking out all the bad guys, I guess, if we ever have that. She's also in the chat. Say hello to her. Hello, Richard from New Mexico. Good to have you here. And again, thank you guys all for tuning in tonight and checking out this quick little update on what Gary said about the treaty, but also, a couple of things. They're taking the highlights out for climate and making it about jobs and money. So they're not even talking about the climate anymore when they talk about Paris and Green New Deal and these winter storms. We're going to see more of these. But yet we have not seen Weather Channel. They usually sensationalize these things and name them something cute. No names this year. Why is that? Because there's more of them? Because we're supposed to be getting warmer? We're supposed to be telling the people out there that this was the first or the second warmest year on record, but yet we're getting all these winter storms? We're going through the alphabet left and right? It's getting harder to hide. So MSM is slowly sneaking these things away without you knowing. Just saying. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight here on the Grand Solar Minimum channel. I do appreciate everyone for tuning in. Please like and share. We need all the likes that we can get. We need all the shares that we can get. Also, say something nice to us here in the comment section, or say something, you got something on your mind about a topic we discussed tonight. Let me hear what your thoughts are, good or bad. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me tonight. Hope everyone stays safe from the storm. If we have any crazy snow totals to talk about, or maybe some footage that we get, we'll make sure we broadcast live and give you an update when necessary. Until next time, everyone, please stay safe, and we will talk soon. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.